What does home actually mean to you? Is it a place to collapse at the end of the day? A warm place to welcome guests? Or is it something a bit more than that? Maybe a creative sanctuary where you do your best work? The reason I'm asking is because the idea of home has been a bit elusive for me for a while now. In Tokyo, our home was also our coffee shop. We lived above our cafe and the two spaces were barely separated. Customers were often curious about the staircase that led up to the rest of our house, and children were forever trying to climb it. We were essentially welcoming strangers into our private life every single day. Then, in London, home was a narrowboat, a place barely big enough for one person's things, let alone two. And it's hard to put down roots when your floor is shifting on top of the water. But now in Kyoto, we finally have a place that feels solid. Today, I'd like to introduce you to two houses that I think help show what this word home might mean, but in two very different ways. The first is Kawai Kanjiro's house. Kanjiro was a central figure in the Minge or folk art movement here in Japan. He was a ceramicist who was deeply, almost obsessively interested in the way that a bowl felt in your hand. William Morris, the English designer, once said that we should have nothing in our houses that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. Kanjiro was certainly channeling some of that energy with his home. Nowadays, his house has been turned into a living museum, and everything within it serves a purpose in beauty or utility. In a way, the Minge movement was the Japanese cousin to the arts and crafts movement that Morris led in Britain. Both groups were tired of the soullessness of the Industrial Revolution. They shared a love of the honest object and were interested in the idea that a handmade chair or a rough clay pot holds a piece of the maker's spirit. Kanjiro's home is an extension of that. It's a place built by hand, for the hand. Everything has been worn down from decades of physical touch. Walking to the north from here, you eventually get to a home that feels very different, but is rooted in somewhat similar ideas. It belonged to the shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa, but by most historical accounts, he was a bit of a rubbish shogun. He was far more interested in the temperature of the water he poured on his tea leaves and the arrangement of flowers than he was in leading an army to battle. He spent his time here tinkering away, essentially creating what we now call Higashiyama culture, which incorporates ikebana, tea ceremony, and Japanese painting. His home is called Ginkakuji, or the Silver Pavilion, which sounds like it should be covered in silver leaf, a bit like his grandfather's Golden Pavilion, Kinkakuji, across town. But for one reason or another, probably because he died, the silver never happened. The lack of silver is interesting though. It's a great example of wabi-sabi, the beauty of things that are unfinished, broken, or weathered by the elements. And it doesn't have that "look at me" energy of Kinkakuji. With all this talk about home, I keep coming back to a piece of writing by Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations. In it, he says, people try to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. You always wish that you could too, which is idiotic. You can get away from it any time you like by going within. Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. And all I can think about when I read that is, I wish I knew that when I was banging my head on the low roof of the boat. Perhaps the houses that Kanjiro and Yoshimasa worked tirelessly on were physical environments where they could, in fact, retire inwards. And maybe, just maybe, that's a good definition of what home is. Anyway, thank you for noticing with me. I'd be curious to find out what the word home means to you. And if you'd like to join me on a sound walk of Kyoto and see another side of the city for yourself, then you can find all the information and book your walk over at kyotoinsound.com.